So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Kathy Burke. I am your board president. How were those table discussions? Did you find those interesting and informative? Was that helpful? Answer some of your questions around expansion, the layout, the architecture, new products. It's really exciting. So we will get reports from everybody, and we'll find out what was talked about at each place. I know that I was down over at the layout, and everyone's interested in the cafe, which is really important. And we did put a lot of effort into making the cafe more user-friendly and provide a little bit more community space. So we're really excited about that. I want to thank the staff for coming and doing these table discussions with us. Stephanie Wright, our store manager, Chris Berkheimer, our grocery manager, Matt West, Alan Raymond, Jen Risley, I don't want to miss anybody, Michael Faber, Drew Bedard, our new finance manager, James Holcomb, and all our board members for being involved in these table discussions. You know, a lot of effort goes into creating these annual meeting, and we usually start probably 6 months ahead of time. So I want to just thank the member linkage committee, Jay Smeltz, Dan Maynard-Wiesick, and Carolyn Crane, and James Holcomb, our board administrator, for all the work they do in putting this all together. Yeah. So I've been on the board for about 6 years, and we used to have this event at Heberton Hall, and it was a lot of effort. And the Courtyard Marriott has made it so easy for us. I don't know, they are phenomenal. Heidi Hale is like a little rock star running around, and they're very helpful, they're very accommodating, and the best thing is they let us have the co-op food here, which is really huge. So thank you, Heidi and her staff, for being so accommodating. They are great neighbors. I also want to thank the kitchen staff. How was the food tonight? Good, good. You know, I get nervous cooking for more than 4 people, so I can't imagine doing this event plus then doing the store offerings at the same time. You guys are phenomenal. A big thank you to the Prepared Foods Department, Suzanne Fortier, and the staff there, Jamie, everybody. The food was delicious. It was locally sourced as much as possible, so I hope you enjoyed that. There was a lot of organization to get that to happen, so thank you. I also, what did you think of the annual report? I thought that this year's annual report was really great. It was clear, the graphics were great, the information in it was succinct, and we have the marketing department to thank for that. Beth Kuzak and Jen Risley, you guys did a great job. Thank you so much. And thank you for just getting the word out about the annual meeting and all the work you do around elections. I know you guys work your butts off in that department, and so a big thank you to you for everything you guys do. I also want to thank the Monadnock Waldorf School for their decorations, and for Jeff Coulter and Greg Pregent from 710 Main Films. Greg is video recording this meeting. So thank you, Greg and Jeff. And to Scott Hussey, our photographer. So a quick review of the agenda before we get right into it. We're going to do the Cooperator of the Year award, and then I will give our board review. We'll move right into the store management report. We will have a brief time for question and answers. We'll move into the election results. We'll recognize board member service, and then we will be graced with the presence of Marilyn Shoal. She is our cooperative rock star. She is our consultant for all things cooperative, And I have been working with her for about 4 years now on monthly phone calls. I consider her my mentor, and I just really appreciate her guidance and her wisdom. And she was just inducted to the Cooperative Hall of Fame in Washington, D.C. So we're really excited to have her. Thank you, Marilyn. So that will be at the end of our meeting. So we'll move right into the Cooperator of the Year, and I'm going to introduce Jay Smeltz, our Board Secretary. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Kathy. When the first worker-owned textile cooperatives were founded in England in the 18th century, the members identified cooperative values, values that they felt they needed to make their co-ops successful. Those values are self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, solidarity, honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. Who wouldn't want to be part of an organization with those values? A highlight of the Monadnock Food Co-op's annual meeting is our recognition of the Cooperator of the Year. The purpose of this award is for us, as we've done in the past, to recognize a member owner, a vendor, a staff member, a co-op partner, or a co-op friend whose work exemplifies cooperative values. This year, we're honoring Susan Ashworth as a Cooperator of the Year to recognize her years 4 decades of service to nutritional and community programs for seniors in rural towns in New Hampshire, and for her service to the Monadnock Food Co-op, which started even before we opened. Susan has spent her career at home health care, hospice, and community services here in Keene, directing the Meals on Wheels program, the Keene Express and Friendly Bus programs, and the Keene Friendly Meals, Friendly Meals senior dining programs. She began her career 4 decades ago as a VISTA volunteer. VISTAs were Volunteers in Service to America. It was a federal program at the time that was known as the Domestic Peace Corps. So whenever you see the local Meals on Wheels truck delivering a nutritional meal to a neighbor, or you see the Friendly Bus making its way through Keene, you know that Susan's organizational and advocacy skills keep that program going. So we would like to recognize Susan for her values of social responsibility and caring for others. But we're also recognizing Susan with this award because of her longtime commitment to our co-op, and also to her connection to the entirety of cooperative values. These values are a part of her life, whether during her time at on the co-op board or at home health care. Susan was one of the first 150 people to become a member owner of the co-op, and that was 2 years before we opened and before ground had even been broken. She was a board member for 6 years, before we even had started opening the doors to our store. So Susan's dedication to our cooperative principles and values have helped us become what we are today, and we would like to recognize Susan with our award.
I would just like to say it's been a real privilege to be part of this co-op, and every time I walk through the door under the beat, I realize how much the co-op is doing for this community with meeting our ends by the roundups, by the farm fund, and it has been so gratifying to be part of that work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susan.
You grab that bag. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Jay. Well-deserved, Susan. We miss you on the board. So I would like to call to order the 8th annual meeting of the Monadnock Food Co-op. And we need to approve the 2017 annual meeting minutes. And there should have been some minutes available at the registration table. So do I have a motion to approve the 2017 annual meeting minutes? Do I have a second? Any discussion, any questions? Good. All those in favor? Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what your board has done in the previous year. And before I really get into it, I just want to talk about our board in general. We have a great board, and we have very dedicated, diligent, caring board members, and we work really well together, and we have a lot of fun. And it's just very rewarding. And in order to really create that strong board culture, board recruitment is really an important piece of our work. And so we have a great nominating committee that has come up with a way of getting candidates on the ballot. And this year we are happy to have 4 candidates on the ballot for election, and we have a contested election, which may not seem like a big deal to you, but for a majority of the co-ops, it's hard to get people to run. It's scary to run in an election. So we really appreciate those who take that risk and come forward and be board candidates. We have worked really hard to screen potential board members. We have a candidate information night, and we've been recognized for the work that we've been doing on the board to recruit really strong candidates. So we feel really good about our process, and we continue to make it even better. And I encourage you, this board is, it's a rewarding board to serve on. And if you're interested in serving, let one of us know. And in the spring, we have the candidate information sessions. So if you decide you want to join or are interested, just take a look at the newsletter or the Facebook posts and keep your eye out for those sessions. So another important thing that we do is we talk a lot about leadership on our board. It's important that board members feel empowered to ask the questions that no one else is asking. So we do, and to also be able to feel confident in stepping into leadership roles such as officer roles of the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer. So we do a lot of monthly trainings on leadership, and we just have a great board. They're all stepping up, and it's really good training. If anyone, it's free training, and you develop these incredible leadership skills that are applicable to your work situation. The other thing, one of the most important things that we do is we oversee the financial conditions of the store. And so to that end, each year we hire a third-party accounting firm to conduct our yearly audit. And so we work with Wagner CPA, and this is our 3rd year working with them. They have a lot of experience with co-ops. And once again, we've had a positive audit. There were no difficulties encountered and no disagreements with management. And I personally meet with the auditors while they're here, and they always talk about how wonderful it is to work with us, and that's a testament to our finance department. So that's great. And so our financial statements are neutral, consistent, and clear, and correspond with generally accepted accounting principles. So we're doing good. And so the next thing that we do that's really important is we monitor our general manager's performance and the store operations. And how we do that is we monitor board policies monthly, and Michael gives us monitoring reports, which we look over. And so in the past year, Michael has presented reports that are clearly written and accepted, have been accepted in compliance with our associated policies. And our store continues to perform really well. And in fact, in comparison with other co-ops in the National Co-op Grocer, Our sales continue to be above the average. Our margin has remained stable and above the co-op average, and our personnel costs were stable, and this reflects really high organizational productivity. So, and that's a testament to all the store managers, so good job. You'll hear more about that in the store management report. And so, of course, we continue to lead the store expansion process. That's taken a lot of our time this year. This past year, we worked with staff to identify worries and concerns around expansion and how we were going to address and monitor those concerns. We felt it was really important that the staff feel like they're being heard and listened to. And so we've met with them a few times around that, and it's been very productive and really good. We also hosted input sessions, which I think many of you might have come to give your opinion on what you would like in the store, and you see the result of that here tonight. So thank you for all who came to those input sessions. And then we spent time, really a lot of time, understanding the financial feasibility of the project, and we looked at various financial scenarios to understand the parameters of success. And we will have our last, the board is the one that decides to expand. So our last decision point will be made when all the contingencies and financial goals have been met. And so we will continue to gather information to make the best decisions for our membership. And we have a very diligent board, and we promise you we'll be doing continue to do our homework and make sure that we make the right decision for our membership and for our local community. So with that, let's just move right into the store management report. I'd like to introduce Michael Faber, our general manager. And I would like to introduce Drew Bedard. Many of you may not know Drew. He joined us about 6 months ago, and he is now our finance manager. Welcome, Drew, and maybe, Drew, you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you, and it's welcome to be here. So yes, I grew up in Hinsdale, just a couple towns away. I did leave the state of New Hampshire to go to school at Nichols College. But upon graduation, I came back to Keene, started my career at CNS Wholesale Grocers at corporate headquarters, where I worked in the accounting and financial planning and analysis department. After about 7 years, I transitioned to Markham Homage, also here in Keene, where I worked within the research and development department as a financial analyst, as the key U.S. representative, worked for a global team. And upon expansion there, my job was looking to be split between Keene and Boston, and personally didn't really want to do that drive. So when I looked elsewhere, I saw the finance manager position was open, and I thought it was a great opportunity for me, so I applied for it. When I came in for my first interview, I couldn't believe how happy the customers and the employees were. I thought for sure it was just a faking it out, because I walked in there with a suit and tie. And after being hired, I actually started to work, and I realized that, no, it's actually real. All the employees, the customers are extremely happy, and it just makes for a phenomenal day. You walk in and you just instantly have a smile put on your face. So it's been a great opportunity to be here. I appreciate Michael for the opportunity, and I just hope to do good work for everybody in this room.
Thanks, Drew. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, great. Well, we've got some great news to share, and maybe just want to start by saying, I think of our co-op and the work that we're doing here similar to the way I think about my work learning how to parent a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, which is learning all the time. And so that's a large part of sort of how we think about and approach our work. And I'm extremely grateful to be sharing, another great year with you, and lots and lots of people have contributed and made that happen. And I certainly want to just recognize that it's been a huge team effort. And first and foremost, I need to thank all of you, because without you and your support and your participation for the co-op, the success that we've had wouldn't have been possible. So a huge thank you to all of you. I also want to thank just the staff. We have a great dedicated group of staff. Many of them are here tonight, and let's give them a hand of applause for all the work they do. Also, want to thank the board for their leadership. They're a group of volunteers. They do work tirelessly on your behalf, and so they're a really important part of our success, as are all of the local vendors and producers who work endlessly to produce great healthy food for all of us, a really important piece of our local sustainable food supply, and certainly the success of the co-op. So thanks to Mark and all the other local food suppliers. Just want to, we had scrolling on at the beginning of the meeting the board's end statements, and the board's ends are similar to a mission statement. They're aimed to describe the outcomes the co-op aims to have in our community. And I want to share these with you, and also as we go through the report, you'll see a lot of our work at the co-op is informed by these ends and what we continually work to accomplish. So the co-op exists to provide an accessible, community-owned downtown food market, to create a marketplace that welcomes and connects community, that builds a healthy, sustainable food system, that supports local farmers and producers, provides education and training for the community, and builds a strong, sustainable, and improving local economy. And you'll see in the following slides some of our work in accomplishing some of those things. This first slide here just describes the sales for the co-op since we opened way back here in 2013. Obviously, a great trajectory here. The green bars here represent years past, and fiscal year 2018, which is what we're primarily reporting on, is identified here in orange. And on the far right in blue is fiscal year 2019, what we're projecting. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So what you see in orange here is what transpired up until June 30th of 2018. And as you can see, sales have continued to soar again with all of your support and all of the great work and contributions from everyone else. We reached just over 12.7 million in sales this past fiscal year, and expect to break 13 million in sales this year. This growth has been hugely impactful, and we're going to share more about that.
So this following slide is a breakdown of how our spending is broken down per sale. So 62% of the dollars actually goes towards the cost of goods to get the product into the building and out into your shopping carts. The next largest chunk is the personnel expenses, coming in at about 23%. So we have tried to do as good a job as possible to improve the compensation for all of our employees. The most important part to me is the net income, which we see it at 3%. So within this industry, we do have a very slim margin to actually hit profitability. So we do have to do a really good job of balancing the happiness of our customers, our vendors, and also our employees. So that's just a continued effort that we try to do. So as I previously said, our net income, we did come in at 3.2%, which was the highest we've done as a company overall. So we did have a couple of key factors to that. One of which was there's a lot of good work being done on the gross margin. This happened at both the buyers and the selling end of things. The other key contributor was the tax law change that went into effect January 1st, which actually lowered our tax rate from 39% to 21%. So that actually led to a significant profitability year for us. So, and with our company being profitable, we were able to pass on more patronage to all of our member owners. How this works is we look at member owner sales and the profitability associated with that. And with that being said, we pass on 20% of that profit back to you. And as we can see, we eclipsed the previous 2 years' highs by $15,000. So as we are able to be profitable, we try to pass on as much to you. Now, this being said, once we do open up the expansion, I do expect 1 to maybe 2 years where we might not be able to issue a refund, but after that, we expect it to be clean, smooth sailing, and you'll be able to get a refund going forward. So as we can see with our cash balance, we ended the year at $1.5 million, which was quite significant, and as we can see, it's been the best that we've been over a year. And this actually eclipsed our budget by about $100,000. So overall, it was a great year for us. With that being said, we are very healthy, but we do have member owner loans that are looking to mature in December of 2018 and June of 2019, which is going to equate to about $250,000 that we're looking to pay back to member owners. But with that being said, it is putting us into a very strong position leading into this expansion.
Moving on now, taking a look at just local sales and the impact to local producers and farmers in our region. You can see the graph here has really been pretty amazing here. The green, again, represents years past. The orange is we eclipsed 5 million this past fiscal year and expect to do about 5.5 million in sales of local products this coming year. So pretty awesome. And this growth has been really important for the local farms and farm families who we source from, and your support has made that possible. So again, thank you. Additionally, in the way of supporting the local food system, as many of you know, back in 2017, we launched the Monadnock Food Co-op Farm Fund. And this is a grant program that aims to provide grants to help local farmers and producers scale up their production to provide more local and healthy food for the co-op and the community. In orange here, you can see we were able to increase what we provided in grants this past fiscal year to $14,000. And this year, we're expecting a significant increase in the grants, up to about $20,000, really thanks to the generous donations that you all are providing through the Rounded Up program at the registers. That the difference between 18 and 2019, that's $6,000 really is coming from the Rounded Up program at the register. So those little dimes and nickels and quarters that you round up your change really really makes a huge difference, and is going to make a big impact for the farm fund here. So this past year, we had 4 recipients from 4 New Hampshire farms. They were awarded to Piccadilly Farm in Winchester, New Hampshire, Echo Farm in Hinsdale, Brookfield Farm of Walpole, and Tracy's Community Farm in Fitzwilliam. And I just wanted to share, I had read the testimonial from that Courtney Hodge wrote from Echo Farm, and I just wanted to share it with you because it really helped me understand just how impactful this grant program has been. Courtney wrote, "We are eternally grateful to the Monadnock Food Co-op for awarding us this grant. While the grant covered a portion of the price of the packaging machine, it was a crucial piece of the funding puzzle. We delayed purchasing a new machine for several years, and it looked like 2018, with another year of depressed milk prices, was going to be another year in which we would have to postpone that purchase. Without the MFC Farm Fund grant, we would not have been able to purchase the machine this year. Our new rotary filler will give us the ability to produce a more consistent, higher quality product more efficiently. We feel well positioned for growth as we enter 2019, and it wouldn't have been possible without the contribution from the fund. Thank you again from the entire herd of Echo Farm Puddings.
So as Michael previously mentioned, the Roundup donation is a key part for our store and our way for us to give back to the community. And how this works is every time you go through the register, you have the chance to round up your purchase to the nearest dollar. Those funds are set aside, and we pay it out throughout the year. So we do run this program all 12 months of the year. However, 4 months of the year, we dedicate it to a specific organization. In 2018, those 4 organizations were the Monadnock Farm Fund, Meals on Wheels, Community Kitchen, and the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. So this is all thanks to you. This all comes from the customers. So just from me personally, thank you very much. So this recipient is actually from our September Roundup Fund that we just issued, so you'll actually see this in the FY 2019 annual report. However, so September we donated $4,800 to MUCH, which is Monadnock Understanding Childhood Hunger. So it's just another great organization that you all contribute to, so thank you very much.
Transitioning a little bit, we want to just sort of look at some of the sustainability initiatives of the co-op and share some of the work that we've been doing on that and some of the success we've had. This is one of my favorite slides. This slide represents the total electricity usage of the co-op. And I think what's cool about it is just that in fiscal year 2016, energy usage of the co-op peaked. And since that time, it's been in decline, which has been really awesome. And a lot of that has to do with, well, I should say, it's been in decline despite the fact that the co-op has continued to grow and we've added and installed new equipment during that time period. That's primarily been accomplished through energy efficient improvements that we've made. We added improvements to our refrigeration system and to our lighting. We transitioned to LED lighting. And it's really having an impact, which has been great. The other really cool thing about this graph that I love is that in orange down here, we identify that represents the amount of renewable energy that we are using to offset the energy that we consume. And you'll notice that there's just a little blip there in fiscal year 2016 where we first installed the rooftop solar system and to provide renewable energy for our co-op. And in fiscal year 2017 here, that was a full year of producing over 8% of our energy needs just from those solar panels on our roof. Then in 2018, we wanted to do more, so we took the next step and began purchasing renewable energy credits to offset what we can't produce on site from other renewable sources. And in fiscal year 2019, the year we're in right here, we expect all our energy to come from renewable sources, so it's really awesome. Now I just want to share a little bit about how the co-op is impacting the local economy. This is a handsome group that's been with the co-op since the very beginning, since when we opened in 2013. If you see some of these staff in the store, which I'm sure you have, please thank them for their dedication. Everyone's been an important part of the success, but their dedication from the beginning has been a really important piece. This graph represents the number of jobs at the co-op since we opened 5 years ago. And here, all the way on the right here in blue, we're expecting to break over 100 jobs this fiscal year, which is a really awesome accomplishment. In just 5 years, we're going to have over 100 jobs. So pretty impressive. And on top of that, what's really great is that we've just been able to add new positions and provide more opportunities for existing staff. So for example, this year we were able to internally promote Stephanie, right? She's right back there. Stephanie was our assistant store manager. She got promoted to the store manager role. Another example this year was that more recently, Dave Schrader, who was a produce clerk, got promoted to being the produce assistant manager. So it's been great just to see some of the staff expand and learn and grow right within the store. On top of jobs, obviously compensation is an important thing, something we've worked hard towards since we opened. Each year we've been able to make more progress by increasing the base wage that our employees make for entry-level positions. So right now in fiscal year 2018, all employees who start at the co-op in an entry-level position make at least $11 an hour. And we're hoping to get up to $11.50 this year. On top of that, we also have a gain share program where we, if the co-op is profitable and successful, we share a portion of those profits back to staff. And last fiscal year, we paid out almost 70 cents per hour, bringing the hourly wage up higher than what's reflected here. So that's great. Additionally, this past year we were able to improve some of our benefits, and we added new dental benefits and a new parental leave policy, which provides paid time off for a parent of a newborn or adopted child. So while our staff compensation is extremely important, we also heard from all of you through the shopper survey that we conducted this past spring that in order for you to do more of your shopping at the co-op, lower prices ranked the #1 factor, followed by improved product selection and variety, and thirdly, availability of more local products. So, as we always do, we really try to balance these competing needs. Our prices and our personnel expenses, when I say personnel expenses, the wages and benefits we provide to staff, those are the two biggest factors that impact our overall financial health, as those are things that we can control, unlike what our rent cost is or our utility cost each month. We also work hard to provide fair prices to our vendor to make sure that they can meet their economic needs as well. So it's sort of our ongoing work to really try to balance these things out and do the best that we can to provide the best prices to hopefully make the co-op as accessible as possible to as many people as possible in the community, but to also again, provide the best we can in compensation and benefits to staff and fair prices to our vendors. Looking ahead with the expansion project, we are really excited about the possibilities of this project, and we feel like it's really going to address some of the things that we saw and we heard from you all in our shopper survey. The expanded store is going to greatly improve our ability to improve product selection, offering more choices, and it's going to give us the ability also to support more local producers and farmers. And it's also going to improve our purchasing power. As the co-op has grown over the past 5 years, the co-op has received better and better pricing from our distributors, and we've passed all of those savings on to you all. And our plans for the expansion are to continue that. We expect that we will once again qualify for better pricing from our distributor, and we want to pass those savings along to you to make the co-op even more accessible to you and the rest of the community. The project that we're looking at aims to add roughly 6,700 square feet of space onto the store, mostly from about here over. And the steps that we've taken up to this point include conducting a market study which showed feasibility for the overall project. Hopefully you've experienced and noticed that we've procured additional parking spaces. We added 25 new parking spaces on, which were going to be required to move ahead with the project. And as you can see, we've developed an interior floor plan that we're really excited about. Next steps with the project include working to continue to develop the construction documents, and I'm sure Katie may have spoke some about that while she was up here. We hope to complete that work in either November or December of this year. And once we do complete that, that'll position us to be able to put the project out to bid. Up to this point, we've been working on project estimates, and those estimates have become more refined as we've gone through the process. But putting the project out to bid and getting a cost back from contractors is really going to help us refine our budget, and is an important piece to the project. We're also looking to apply for new market tax credits to help us finance the project in February of 2019. We're looking at a different way of financing and approaching the project than we were looking at when we originally embarked on it, which we're really excited about. It positions us to actually purchase the co-op, the land, and the expanded building, and really give our co-op and our community the benefits of ownership. Currently, we estimate the total project cost to be about $8.5 million. Shortly after applying for the new market tax credits, the next step would be to launch a loan drive. And both of these steps are going to be pretty time consuming. So if things go as planned, it would be several months probably before we'd be in a position to actually close on the financing if everything progresses as we hope. And we could potentially look at starting construction in July of next year. But as you all know, with any of these timelines, they are subject to shifting. There are lots of variables and pieces that we need to pull together, and we're absolutely committed to making sure that we have the project well organized before taking next steps. Finally, I just want to call your attention to an upcoming event. Certainly providing education and information is another important end statement for our co-op. Our co-op helps sponsor the Feast on This Film Festival each year. It's coming up November 8th through 10th. Personally, I know watching some of the movies and videos that are out there about our food system and agriculture in our country has helped to open my eyes up to some of the challenges that we have and some of the ways that we can help improve our local food system in this area. And so I want to encourage you all to look on our website. We've got a lot more information about that. With all that said, I want to just wrap up here again. Thank you all for hearing, listening to this, and inviting Kathy and Drew and I are going to step here and just provide an opportunity for you all to ask questions of things that are on your mind.
So if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll come with the mic and you can speak into the mic. Is there any questions? No questions. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Let me come over, Sue.
It's not a question, it's just a statement of, I think you guys have done a fabulous job, and the more you can accelerate getting your personnel salaries up to $15 an hour, the happier I'm going to be.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. One last opportunity before we move forward. Okay, well, great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Michael and Drew, for your presentation. So I'm going to introduce Carolyn Crane. She is our board vice president, and she's going to take over from here, and she's going to give us the election results.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to all of you who voted, and I'm pleased to announce that we elected Dan Maynard-Wysick, Kate Hickey, and Derek Galligan to join our board of directors. If they could all stand up, they're here. They could stand up so you could see who they are. That's Derek. Dan's in the way back. So we're very pleased to have that done with. So thank you all of you who ran and for all of you who voted. Okay, so now I get to say thank you. We have one board member who's leaving the board, and that's Mary Doan, and she was here. Did she escape? Where is she? There she is. So we want to thank Mary. She served on the board for 3 years, and I personally have appreciated her sense of humor, and also she's got this eagle eye for numbers and budget stuff, and has been a big help, I think, to all the board members on that. She also worked a lot with Lisa Marr on the really important task of orienting new board members to their roles. And we have a solid system now for onboarding those people so they can hit the ground running and really represent you well as fulfill all the responsibilities that they have as board members. So please join me in saying thank you to Mary for her board service. Mary, come on up. Mary gets one of our fashionable jute bags.
Thank you. And I'd like to say that we have a wonderful board, and if anyone is interested in being a board member, it's not difficult. Michael does an amazing job of sending us packets to prepare us for board meetings. We don't come in with surprises or shocks at the meeting, and it's a great group of people to work with. So I'm very happy to have served, and I encourage anyone who's interested to step up.
Thanks for the commercial. Okay, so in a couple minutes, you're going to be treated to a little talk from Marilyn Shoal, who means a lot to this co-op, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But before we do that, I want to adjourn the formal business meeting. Doesn't mean you can leave. You have to stay and listen to Marilyn. But can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? And is there a second? Seconded. All in favor? Yay. Okay. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Marilyn. Some of you may know her because she, I understand, she is a member of our co-op, and she joined the co-op one year when there was going to be an apple pie baking contest at the annual meeting, and I wasn't there, so some of you may remember that. Well, in order to submit a pie for the contest, she had to be a member, so she joined the co-op so that she could do that, and then I'm told she won. So you may have met her during that process, but those of us on the board have come to really appreciate Marilyn's contributions in so many ways. What I want you to know is that Marilyn has played a prominent role in every development in the U.S. food co-op sector for the last 40 years, when she went to work at a co-op in Milwaukee in 1978. After that, she worked at the University of Wisconsin, developing training programs for board members in food co-ops around business sustainability, membership development, and strategic planning. From that evolved the CDS Consulting Co-op, which is a group of folks like Marilyn who had developed some expertise in helping boards and co-ops develop and for effective governance. So that kind of training continued. And they developed the Cooperative Board Leadership Development Program, which all of our board members have participated in, as have board members from all over the country. And they created a nonprofit grant program which assisted in the startup of 130 co-ops across the country. And Marilyn's been a part of all of that. She recently retired from the CDS Consulting Co-op, but we're special, and she kept us as a client, so we still are benefiting from her experience and wisdom. And she was elected into the National Co-op Hall of Fame this past year. So we have a Hall of Famer in our midst. we've been really fortunate to have her as our consultant since the very early days of the co-op, and her dedication to helping us achieve our goals has been priceless. So please join me in welcoming Marilyn Shoal.
Forward. Wow. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Carolyn, for that really lovely introduction. I am, besides being inducted into the Co-op Hall of Fame, I'm a baseball fan, so I am also dedicated to us getting out of here so that we can watch the Red Sox tonight take on Game 3 out in Los Angeles. So just congratulations on another fantastic year of operations at the Monadnock Food Co-op. You have a lot to be proud of, and I'm proud to have had a small part to play in it. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of my experiences. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame was a time to really reflect on the last 40 years. And so it brought up a lot of memories and a lot of stories, and so it's great to be able to share some of them here tonight. The only reason that my stories are important for you is some of the reflections on what they mean. So, you know, if we want to go to the bar later, I can tell you more stories in depth, but the stories that I selected are ones that I think will be something that's meaningful for the Monadnock Food Co-op. And before I start with that, I'd like to know how many of you are a member of another food co-op besides the Monadnock Food Co-op right now? Yeah, good. I thought so, quite a few. And how many of you are a member of another kind of co-op, a credit union, a worker-owned co-op, a farmer co-op? A lot of you. So, like many of you, many people in the United States are members of more than one cooperative. There are over 29,000 cooperatively owned businesses in the United States. And here's a representative of them. There are 350, let me get the number right, 350 million co-op members in the United States. And if you know, the population of the United States is 325 million. So that means that, like a lot of you, most Americans are members of more than one cooperative. And not all of them even know it. Not everybody knows that credit unions are financial cooperatives. And across the world, over 1 billion people are members of cooperatives. So it's 1 in 6 of every person across the world. And it's important, an alternative way of doing business where it's not just the people who started out with the most money who get to make the most money, but the people who participate the most in the business. So it's a unique business model and one that seeks to level the playing field. So it's something that's very important in our economy today. The modern cooperative movement got its start in Rochdale, England, in the Industrial Revolution, when there was a huge divide between the people who owned property and the people who didn't, the people who provided the labor. There was no education for working class families, the children of working class families. Only the wealthy were educated. So it was very hard to bridge that gap. And there were a group of people who worked in the weaving industry in England who were just tired of having their only choice to buy food, the company store. In the company store where plaster was mixed with flour, where dirt was mixed in with their tea, where they were gouged on pricing. And they were just tired of it. They were poor, but they were determined, and they decided that they wanted to start their own store. So it took them years. I can't remember how long it took the Monadnock Food Co-op to get your co-op organized, but it took them about 3 years. They managed to save 2 weeks of wages each to invest in their cooperative. 2 weeks of wages each that they saved. They were poor, but they were determined. They finally got their store open, and their first, in 1844, And their first their first store had 5 products for sale. It was sugar, flour, butter, oatmeal, and candles. Candles? How does that go with those other items? Well, the electric company refused to sell them power to light their store, so they had to buy candles, and they had to buy them in bulk, so they sold the rest of them to their members. So that's how creative they were in getting their store opened. Now, the Rochdale Pioneers were not the first group of people to work together cooperatively, and they were not the first to start a cooperative business, but we remember them because they were the first that survived. And one of the reasons that they survived was that they developed a set of principles. And Jay talked a little bit about the values that go along with these principles earlier. But these principles have evolved and changed and matured over the years, but they still guide cooperatives all around the world adhere to the 7 cooperative principles that are shown here. And another time I'd love to talk about the cooperative principles, but I won't go into depth on them now. Just know that they exist, and they're the things that all co-ops follow to be sure that things continue to be democratic, that we continue to treat people fairly, to use our money wisely, and to share our resources together. But I want to talk a little bit more about the growth of co-ops in the United States. I've been around for 40 years, so I don't go back this far, but I've learned about it. The first wave of food co-op development in the United States started in the Depression and the aftermath of the Depression in the 30s and 40s. And co-ops formed in communities all across the country. There were about 300 co-ops that formed during that era. And today there are about a handful, 5 or 6 of those that remain. So we've lost most of them. But we have some. Hanover Co-op up in Hanover, New Hampshire, and Putney Food Co-op across the river are 2 co-ops that come from that era of food co-op development. The next wave came around in the 60s and 70s as part of the anti-establishment, hippies, anti-war, women's movement, environmental movement, civil rights movement, all of that energy coming together that people started started food co-ops again. How many people in the room were members of a food co-op or shopped in a food co-op in the 1980s or before? Yes, so, oh yeah, more than I thought, quite a few. So food for people, not for profit was the motto. Cleanliness was considered bourgeois. Customer service was pretty much non-existent, and management was a dirty word. So in that era, we don't really know, there aren't very good records, but we think between 600 and 800 food co-ops during that era. And we lost about 60% of those, well over half of those. So we learned that actually profit was necessary and that cleanliness was important because competitors came along. As natural and organic food became more and more desired by the population, for-profit companies began to offer cleaner stores, better managed stores, better run, better customer service, and not all the co-ops were able to adapt and respond. And so we lost quite a few during that time period. This is where I come into the story. In 1978, my first co-op, the Gordon Park Food Co-op in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So in 1978, I just love the red Volkswagen there. That gives you a sense of what time period that it was. This co-op was a little bit different than the typical co-op of the era because we sold everything. We sold Pepsi and cigarettes and bologna and white bread. And the reason that we did, and everything else that goes along with it, was that there was a grocery store in this neighborhood. It's a working class neighborhood in Milwaukee. And the two brothers that owned this store, a couple of Hungarian guys, in their 80s, had been trying to sell the store for 5 years, and they couldn't find anybody to buy it because all the grocery stores were moving out of neighborhoods into strip malls in the suburbs. And that's where people, remember that in the 70s, that's what was going on. So they finally decided that they would just close it down. But in our neighborhood, there was one of these natural food stores, the hippies with the cash register. And you can see the sign right next to our co-op. There was a natural food store next door. So the neighbors knew that it was possible. They knew what a co-op was. They knew that because they had one right in the neighborhood. So they pooled their money, $5 each, to buy out the inventory from the brothers and operate their own store. So that was my first lesson in people coming together to meet their own needs. Even if those needs were different than the needs of the other co-op next door, you could still meet those needs with a cooperative business structure. Unfortunately, Gordon Park Food Co-op stopped being in existence in 1989, but it did last for nearly 20 years, serving the people of that neighborhood. How many of you ever heard of Whole Foods Market? So my next journey took me to Austin, Texas. I left Gordon Park. While it was still healthy, I believe we could have survived if I'd stayed, but that's just my arrogance and ego coming into effect. But when I went to Wheatsville as the general manager, there were 2 Whole Foods stores in the entire world. One of them was a mile north, and one was a mile south. When I went, they just opened the second store. There had previously only been one, and the general manager that I replaced said, with some delight, we didn't lose any of our employees when they opened that second store. And I was a little worried. I thought, they didn't want any of our staff? What was wrong? But we did have a great staff. It was just, they were happy where they were, I guess. But anyway, in that era, that was the beginning of when private capital began coming into the natural foods industry and replacing the cooperative capital that had gotten the movement to begin. And Whole Foods had 2 stores then in 1984 when I went there. In 1992, they continued to grow. In 1992, they went public, put their money on their shares on the stock market and began selling stock. And today, they have over 470 stores, and they're owned by Amazon. Meanwhile, Wheatsville opened its second store in 2013. Down in the south, on the south part of Austin. So capital matters. Having money to invest in growth and development matters. Wheatsville was able eventually to open their second store at the same time this company built 470 stores. So it's important to keep, I think, in scale about growth and development, and food co-ops also need to grow and develop. Maybe not at that scale. Maybe that would not quite serve our values, but staying small also wouldn't serve our values. During that same time period, there began to be a little emergence of a support network for co-ops. We began to find out that there were other co-ops in other towns. We thought we were just doing our own thing in Milwaukee, but no, there were other people doing their thing and all across the country, and we began to meet with them. We started, there was a loose network, including a magazine and some training from the University of Wisconsin, best practices, networking, a conference. There was a conference of the co-ops from the old wave. Remember the ones that started in the 30s and 40s? They had a conference called the Consumer Cooperative Management Association Conference. And some of us started going to that conference to see what we could learn from the people from that era before they were all gone. And things began to have an impact. We started learning and started doing things a little more professionally. We started learning not to keep the money under the lettuce at night, to actually buy safes and Really, that happened. We learned about pricing, that there was a co-op that just put the price on the food for what it cost the co-op and then told the customers, just pay whatever you can. That co-op didn't last very long. So we started to learn. We started to learn how to run businesses. And these are some of the organizations that helped in that transition. Then in 1999, a national organization was formed to support food co-ops and bring the purchasing power together. Monadnock Food Co-op is a proud and active member of the National Cooperative Grocers. In 2004, I was asked to be a part of the reorganization of the NCG into a new organization, and we chose a cooperative model so that each of the food co-ops around the country that are members own a share of the National Association. It is a cooperative itself. And when it is successful and has profits at the end of the year, then Monadnock and all the other co-ops get a patronage dividend from NCG. And so that allowed the co-ops to actually begin to compete on the same scale as the other chains, as the Whole Foods. It's not a chain. Each of the co-ops are independent in their local communities like yours, but the purchases are combined to get the benefits of a chain, to get better pricing and better structure and better training and resources for each of the individual food co-ops. So this has been one of the big factors in helping to stabilize what was once a possibility that we would lose more and more co-ops. Then about 15 years ago, a new wave started. Even though natural and organic foods were available nearly everywhere, the phone started ringing and people would say, we want a food co-op in our community. I would say, well, don't you have a natural food store? They would say, yes. Don't they sell natural foods at your grocery store? Yes, but we want more local product. We want more community. We want more integrity with our relationships with employees and our vendors. We want more reinvestment of what happens of the business back into our community. We don't want all the profits going down to Austin or wherever. In other words, we want more than a store. We want a co-op. And Monadnock and Keene, New Hampshire was part of that movement. So we realized that the existing system wasn't going to be robust enough to meet the needs of the startup community, so we created a new organization called Food Co-op Initiative, and I am proud to serve on the board of Food Co-op Initiative today. So far, in the last 15 years, there have been about 120 co-ops that have opened, and to date, 70% of them are still in business. We lost one this week, very unfortunately. But 70% are still in existence. So we're hopeful that this wave of food co-ops, the wave that you're in, will learn some of the lessons of the previous two waves, where we lost, in one case, 95% of those co-ops are gone. In the other case, 60-some% of those co-ops are gone. So the hope is that these lessons will carry forward, and this wave of co-ops will have a much higher success rate. So what are those lessons? I can only give you my opinion, but in my opinion, here are the things, the lessons that you can carry forward from the previous, the failures of the previous movements. First, a focus on meeting member needs. Whatever those needs may be. And to know what those needs are, co-ops have to really engage with their members, like tonight, like an opportunity to go around to these different stations and share what you're looking for, what you need. Co-ops need to create opportunities like you've had here tonight, and like the Monadnock Co-op has done with its listening sessions in preparation for this expansion. So really focusing on meeting member needs. Second, being more than a store. My gosh, tonight, what an example. I didn't even know it was the theme. But what an example of being more than a store. From the farm fund to the great jobs and good benefits that your co-op offers, to the donations to the nonprofit organizations, what a difference your co-op has made to this community. More than a store. Co-ops must be managed effectively and generate profits. Again, here tonight, Michael and his team have done such a good job in demonstrating the good results that you have. Balancing those delicate needs of good pricing for customers, good wages for staff, fair treatment of farmers and vendors, and to make that all work. It's kind of magical, but it's also really hard work. Thank you, Michael. Good job. You also need excellent governance. And I've had the privilege of working with your board and can attest to the fact, they said it, but I'll say it, they're a good board. They're one of the stars. They're very dedicated, they work hard, they take their work seriously, and they still have fun. Co-ops need to work together. A single co-op is very vulnerable compared to a co-op that is part of a larger association. And the Monadnock Food Co-op is a member not only of the National Co-op Grocers, but also the Neighboring Food Co-op Alliance, and works with other cooperatives whenever possible. So you have a real good track record there. And lastly, in my opinion, co-ops need to commit to growth and development, to expand the impact that you have. So all of this impact that you have had, that chart of local sales was just so impressive. To be able to purchase $5 million from local producers. The more Monadnock grows, the more you can expand the impact you can have on the local economy. And without some growth, there's no opportunities for staff to advance or to achieve more wages. So growth is important. Now, keeping that growth in an appropriate scale and a human scale, I think, is also worth thinking about, but you can't just stay the same and survive. You can't stay the same and survive in business. So, in my opinion, the Monadnock Food Co-op, all things point in a very positive direction. But I urge you to stay engaged. Cooperation requires participation. It requires you to show up, to ask questions, to be here, to express your needs, to tell the co-op what you need, and most of all, enjoy the great food and continue shopping. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, thanks to everybody for coming tonight, and we'll let y'all go home and go Red Sox.